Listen closely, because what I am about to tell you will sound impossible, but I was there. I saw it with my own 4 eyes, and I still wake up in the middle of sleep cycle wondering if humans are actually insane or if the rest of us are just pathetically fragile. My name is Vrult. I belong to the Keshari species, a proud warrior race that has conquered 17 star systems and never, not once, retreated from a battlefield. We stand nearly 3 meters tall, our exoskeletons can deflect plasma rounds, and our strength is legendary across 6 sectors. We are apex predators. We are unstoppable, or at least that is what we thought before we met Lieutenant Marcus Webb. The incident happened on Outpost Gamma 9, a disputed mining colony on the edge of the Terran-Keshari border. Tensions had been building for months. Small skirmishes, territorial disputes, the usual posturing that happens when 2 proud species refuse to back down. But nothing serious, nothing that suggested what was coming. I was stationed there as part of a peacekeeping force. Ridiculous concept, really. Putting Keshari warriors in the same compound as human soldiers and expecting everyone to play nice. But the Galactic Council insisted, and our clan leader agreed, so there we were. Sharing facilities, sharing mess halls, pretending we did not hate each other. The humans were strange from the start. They were small. Laughably small. Most of them barely reached my mid-torso, and their bodies looked soft. No natural armor, no claws, no venom sacs. Just pink or brown or tan skin that bruised if you looked at it wrong. They moved oddly too, always in a rush, always talking, always making jokes about things that were not funny. I remember thinking they must have conquered their way into space through sheer luck. Perhaps they found abandoned technology. Perhaps they bred in such disgusting numbers that they simply overwhelmed their enemies. Because looking at them, no way these creatures fought their way to the stars. My clutchmates agreed. There were 5 of us assigned to the outpost. Myself, Kral, Thessa, Morax, and young Cinta. We were the elite, the best warriors our clan had produced in 3 generations. We had survived the trial of razors. We had hunted the great beasts of our homeworld. We had proven ourselves in blood and honor. And we were babysitting humans. Look at them, Kral would hiss during our private meetings, his mandibles clicking in disgust. They cannot even digest proper meat without cooking it first. They are scavengers pretending to be predators. Thessa was more cautious. Do not underestimate them. The reports say they have won battles against species twice their size. Reports lie, Morax snorted. I have watched them train. They are slow, weak. They tire after running for mere minutes. Cinta said nothing. She was young, barely past her molting, and she watched the humans with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. She was always observing, always learning. The mark of either a great warrior or a dangerous fool. Lieutenant Marcus Webb was the human who changed everything. He was average for his species, maybe 1.8 meters tall. Brown hair cut short, green eyes that never stopped moving. He had scars on his hands and a slight limp that he tried to hide. Later, I learned he had been injured in some previous conflict, a broken leg that had not healed properly. The humans had offered to replace it with cybernetics, but he had refused. Said he wanted to keep his original parts. Stupid, inefficient, very human. Marcus was friendly in the way humans are friendly, which is to say aggressively. He would greet us every morning in the mess hall, attempting to pronounce our names in his clumsy mammalian tongue, making jokes that made no sense in translation. He would ask us questions about our culture, our homeworld, our traditions. At first, we thought this was intelligence gathering, but no, he was just curious. Genuinely, stupidly curious about everything. Morning, Vrult, he would say, waving one of his 5-fingered hands. How are the mandibles today? Still sharp? I would click in response, not bothering to translate, but he never seemed offended. He would just grin and move on to annoy someone else. The tension at the outpost was building like pressure in a sealed container. The mining rights were still disputed. The Galactic Council kept delaying their decision. Both sides were getting impatient. Our warriors wanted action. The humans wanted resolution. Nobody was happy. Then the cubs arrived. Keshari cubs are not like human children. We do not coddle them. We do not shelter them. At age 6 cycles they are sent into the training grounds to learn combat. By age 10 they have made their first kill. By age 15 they are warriors. It is our way. It has always been our way. 3 cubs were sent to Gamma 9 as part of their advanced training. Vec, Resha, and Tolm. Young, aggressive, desperate to prove themselves. They looked at the humans the way predators look at wounded prey, with hunger. with contempt, with the certainty that violence was inevitable. I should have seen it coming. I should have known that mixing arrogant young warriors with their first taste of independence in a species they had been raised to view as inferior was a recipe for catastrophe. But I was complacent. We all were. The incident started in the training yard. Marcus was there, running through some human exercise routine. Something they call calisthenics, which apparently involves lowering and raising their bodies repeatedly for no logical reason. He was sweating, breathing hard, looking vulnerable. The cubs were watching. Look at it struggle, Vec chittered, loud enough for Marcus to hear. The soft skin can barely support its own weight. Marcus glanced over but did not respond. He just kept exercising. In, down, up, out. His face was red from exertion. I bet I could snap its arms like dried fungus, Rasha added, moving closer. Should we test it? This was a problem. Keshari culture values strength, respects power. Challenges are common among our young. A way to establish hierarchy and earn honor. But the humans had different rules, different expectations. They did not understand that what the cubs were doing was normal, natural, just younglings testing boundaries. Marcus stood up slowly, wiping sweat from his face with a small cloth. You boys looking for something? His voice was calm. Too calm. I was across the yard, supervising another group, but I could hear the edge in his tone. The warning. We are looking at weakness, Tolm said, the smallest of the three but the most aggressive, and wondering how your species survived long enough to leave your planet. Marcus smiled. Not a friendly smile, a smile that showed teeth. That is an excellent question. You want to find out? This was escalating. I started moving toward them, but I was not fast enough. Krell was closer, and he was grinning. He wanted to see what would happen. Wanted to watch the human embarrass itself. A challenge, Vec announced formally, spreading his arms wide. Single combat. To first blood or submission. The other humans in the training yard had stopped what they were doing. They were watching now. Tense. Red. Marcus looked at Vec for a long moment. Then he shook his head. Not interested. Coward. Rasha hissed. Yup, Marcus agreed cheerfully. Absolutely. Completely terrified of fighting an adolescent half my age. You got me. The sarcasm was thick enough to cut with a blade. The cubs did not understand sarcasm. They understood that the human had refused a formal challenge, that it had shown weakness. Tall moved first. He was fast. I will give him that. Faster than Marcus expected. The young Keshari lunged forward, claws extended, aiming for the human's shoulder. A grazing strike, not meant to kill, just meant to mark, to humiliate. Marcus twisted, but not fast enough. Tolm's claws caught his upper arm, tearing through the fabric of his uniform and into flesh beneath. 3 parallel cuts, deep enough to bleed. Red blood, so much brighter than our own, began soaking through the torn material. First blood, Tolm announced triumphantly. The human bleeds like prey. Marcus looked down at his arm, at the blood dripping onto the training mat. His expression was unreadable. Then he looked up at the 3 cubs, and something in his eyes changed. Something cold and calculating and very, very dangerous. Okay, he said quietly. Now we have a problem. What happened next occurred too fast for proper analysis. One moment, Marcus was standing still, injured and bleeding. The next moment, Tolm was on the ground, screaming, his right arm bent at an angle that arms should not bend. Marcus had moved with a speed that seemed impossible for his injured state, had grabbed Tolm's attacking limb, and had simply twisted. The crack of breaking chitin was loud enough to hear across the entire yard. My arm, Tolm shrieked. You broke my arm. Yup, Marcus said calmly, releasing him. I did. Vec and Rasha stared in shock. Then they attacked together. This was no longer a challenge. This was a fight. A real fight. The cubs moved with all the speed and ferocity of their training, claws slashing, mandibles snapping. They were trying to kill him now. Trying to restore honor through violence. Marcus did not run. Did not call for help. He simply adapted. He was smaller than them. Weaker in raw strength. Slower in a straight sprint. Every advantage belonged to the Keshari cubs. But Marcus fought like nothing I had ever seen. He used their momentum against them. Used their aggression as a weapon. When Vec lunged, Marcus sidestepped and drove an elbow into the cub's thorax with surgical precision. When Rasha tried to grapple, Marcus dropped low, swept the legs, and delivered a strike to the joint that made Rasha's knee bend sideways with another sickening crack. Both cubs were on the ground now, both injured, both making sounds of pain that younglings should never make. The entire outpost had gone silent. Humans and Keshari alike stood frozen, watching this impossible thing. A single injured human had just defeated 3 Keshari cubs in hand-to-hand combat, had broken their bones like it was nothing, like it was easy. Marcus stood over them, breathing hard, his arm still bleeding. He looked tired, looked hurt, but he was standing, and they were not. Anyone else want to test how humans survived? He asked, his voice carrying across the yard. No? Good, because I have got paperwork to file now, and I hate paperwork. He walked away. Just turned and walked away, leaving 3 broken cubs, and 50 witnesses to an event that would change everything. His limp was more pronounced now. His injured arm hung at his side. He was clearly in pain, but he walked with his head up, his back straight, radiating a confidence that made every Keshari present feel something we had not felt in generations. Fear. I went to the cubs. They were crying, which is shameful for warriors but understandable for younglings. Tom's arm was badly broken. Risha's knee would need surgery. Vec had cracked ribs and was struggling to breathe properly. All 3 would survive, but their pride would not. They had challenged a human, a single injured unarmed human, and he had destroyed them. How? Vec gasped, looking up at me with all 4 eyes wide. How did it move so fast? How did it hit so hard? I had no answer. I was asking myself the same questions. Cinta appeared beside me. She had been watching the whole time, of course. Always watching, always learning. It was not faster, she said quietly. It was smarter. It knew exactly where to strike, exactly how to move. Like it had studied us, learned our weaknesses. Impossible, Krell said, approaching with the medical team. We have only been here for 3 months. There has not been time for such analysis. Then maybe, Cinta suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. They learned before they arrived. Maybe they have been studying us for years. Maybe they study everyone. That thought settled over us like ice water. The implications were staggering. If the humans had been researching Keshari physiology, Keshari combat techniques, Keshari cultural practices before they ever set foot on this outpost, then this was not a random peacekeeping assignment. This was strategic, calculated. The humans were not here to keep peace. They were here to learn how to fight us. And Marcus had just given us a demonstration. The medical team took the cubs away. The rest of us stood in the training yard, processing what we had witnessed. The humans had resumed their exercises, but they were watching us now, evaluating, measuring, count. That night, I could not sleep. I kept replaying the fight in my mind, kept seeing the way Marcus moved, the precision, the efficiency, the complete lack of hesitation when he broke young bone. Humans, I was beginning to realize, were not weak. They were something far more dangerous. They were adaptable, strategic, willing to do whatever was necessary to survive and win. They had conquered their way into space not through strength or technology or numbers, but through sheer, stubborn, terrifying adaptability. They learned. They evolved. They became what they needed to be. And right now, on this outpost surrounded by Keshari warriors who had underestimated them, they were learning how to break us. The cubs had counted every crack as their bones shattered. They had whispered to each other in medical bay that this was their chance to prove humans were not invincible, their chance to restore honor through revenge. But I knew better. I had seen Marcus walk away from that fight, injured and bleeding and utterly unconcerned. I had seen the way the other humans looked at us afterward, not with fear, not with anger, with assessment, with calculation. The cubs thought they had found weakness. They thought the human's broken body was an opportunity. They had no idea, no comprehension of what they had actually done. They had not found weakness. They had woken something up, something that had been pretending to be friendly and harmless and safe. They had reminded the humans why their species had fought its way up from some backwater planet to become a galactic power. Why every species that had underestimated them had regretted it. Why the word human was starting to carry weight in council chambers and military briefings across known space. The cubs had broken the human's bones, counting every crack like it was a victory. But as I lay in my quarters that night, unable to sleep, I realized the horrible truth. Marcus had let them, had taken the injury deliberately, had allowed first blood because he knew exactly what would happen next, knew that 3 arrogant cubs attacking an injured human would justify what came after, would give him permission to respond with the full, terrible efficiency that his species had perfected over millennia of killing each other and everything else that threatened them. This was not their chance. This was never their chance. This was a lesson. And we were the students. I just hoped we survived long enough to learn it. The next morning, everything felt different. The air in the compound had changed. It was thicker somehow, charged with electricity that made my sensory organs itch. The humans moved through the corridors the same as always, smiling their strange smiles, making their incomprehensible jokes. But underneath something had shifted. They were watching us now. Really watching. The way a hunter watches prey before the killing strike, and we were watching them right back. The cubs were in medical bay, being treated by both Keshari and human doctors. Ironic, is it not? The same species that broke their bones was now carefully setting them, injecting them with healing compounds, monitoring their recovery with equipment far more advanced than our own. The humans had insisted on helping with treatment. Said it was protocol. Said they wanted to ensure proper healing. I think they wanted to study what they had done. Wanted to measure the damage. Take notes for next time. Tom would recover fully in 6 weeks. Rasha needed surgery, which the human medical officer, Dr. Elizabeth Park, performed with unsettling skill. Vec's ribs were wrapped and bound, his breathing assisted by machines that hummed and beeped in rhythms I did not trust. All three were alive. All three were functional, but something in them had broken that went deeper than bones and cartilage. They were quiet now. Subdued. The aggressive arrogance had drained away, replaced by something that looked disturbingly like respect. Or maybe fear. Sometimes those two things look the same. I visited them on the second day after the incident. They were sharing a recovery room, 3 beds arranged in a triangle, surrounded by monitoring equipment, and the persistent smell of antiseptic. Tolma was awake, staring at the ceiling with all 4 eyes unfocused. Rasha was asleep, sedated for pain. Vec was reading something on a datapad, his breathing labored but steady. "How are you feeling?" I asked, because that is what you ask the injured, even when the answer is obvious. "Like I was hit by a transport shuttle," Tolm said flatly. "Driven by a human who knew exactly which parts would hurt the most. Lieutenant Webb came to visit earlier," Vec said, not looking up from his datapad. "Brought fruit. Some kind of human food called apples. Said they help with healing. Sat there for 20 minutes explaining the physiology of what he did to us. In detail. With diagrams. I felt my mandibles click in surprise. He explained it," Vec repeated. "Showed us the pressure points on Keshari anatomy. Demonstrated on a model where to strike to break the exoskeleton with minimum force. Talked about leverage and momentum and something called kinetic energy transfer. Then he apologized for hurting us." "He apologized?" "Yes. Said he wished we had not forced his hand. Said he hoped we would heal quickly. Said if we wanted to learn proper combat technique, he would be happy to teach us once we recovered." Vec finally looked up, his eyes meeting mine. He meant it. Vralt. He was genuinely sorry, but also completely unapologetic about breaking us. It made no sense. Actually, it made perfect sense. Humans were contradictions wrapped in soft flesh. They could feel genuine regret about hurting someone while simultaneously being willing to do it again if necessary. They separated the action from the emotion, kept them in different compartments of their bizarre brains, and somehow managed to function without the cognitive dissonance tearing them apart. It was disturbing, efficient, incredibly dangerous. "Are you going to accept his offer?" I asked. "To train with him?" The 3 cubs looked at each other. Some wordless communication passed between them, the kind that clutchmates develop over years of shared experience. Finally Tolm spoke. "Yes, we are going to learn everything he will teach us. Because next time we want to win." "There should not be a next time," I said firmly. "The challenge is over. Honor has been satisfied." "Honor?" Rasha had woken up, his voice thick with pain medication but sharp with bitterness. "We have no honor, Vralt. We attacked an injured opponent and got destroyed in seconds. Every warrior on this outpost knows what happened. Every warrior is laughing at it. The only way to restore honor is to become strong enough that no one ever laughs again. And you think a human will teach you this strength?" "I think," Vec said slowly, carefully, "that Lieutenant Marcus Webb just showed us we do not know the first thing about real combat. Everything we learned in the training grounds, everything we were taught about honor and strength and warrior pride, it all failed in seconds against someone who actually knows how to fight. So yes, we will learn from him. We will learn everything. And then maybe, just maybe, we will understand what makes humans so terrifying." I left the medical bay feeling unsettled. The cubs were right, of course. They had been humiliated. but their response seeking training from the one who humiliated them. That was not the Keshari way. We were supposed to demand a rematch. Challenge again. Fight until we won or died trying. Instead, these younglings were choosing to adapt, to learn, to change. They were acting like humans. The thought made my blood run cold. Over the next week, the dynamics at Outpost Gamma 9 continued to shift in ways that made me deeply uncomfortable. The human contingent, which had always seemed slightly out of place, slightly awkward in their interactions with us, now moved with quiet confidence. They had proven something in that training yard. Proven that underneath the soft skin and friendly smiles was something we had failed to recognize. Predators. Not like us. Not obvious and armored and sharp. But predators nonetheless. The kind that adapted. The kind that learned. The kind that won. Marcus returned to duty 2 days after the incident. His arm bandaged but functional. He resumed his normal routine without fanfare. Exercises